Major phone carriers make you sign contracts with rigid data plans to trap you into a kind of forced phonogamy. Sounds pretty insecure if you ask me. At Consumer Cellular, we believe in a more consensual and healthy form of phonogamy, free of contracts and more flexible to your data needs. This way, you stick around not because we force you to with contracts and fees, but because you love our phone plans. Like ardently love our phone plans. Phonogamously. Consumer Cellular. When Freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
The Two-Footed Podcast is brought to you by EPLindex.com and our presenting sponsor, Liberty Shield. Liberty Shield is a VPN provider. A virtual privacy network allows you to go online, change your location, access things you're geo-blocked from, while keeping your data safe. So, as an example, if you are a UK expat and want access to BBC iPlayer to watch Match of the Day or ITV Hub or all four, but you get that message that says this content is not available in your location, a Liberty Shield VPN gets you around that block, allows you to watch whatever you want on those services while also keeping your data safe. And it goes further than that. It allows you to open up Netflix's entire library by just changing your IP address. Liberty Shield is the #1 rated VPN provider on Trustpilot with 5-star ratings across the board. So go to libertyshield.com right now, use the code EPL25 and get either the hardware package or the software package. The hardware package is a router that you plug into your existing router, and any item you want to change the IP address on, be it your phone or your television, you connect that to the new Liberty Shield router. All other items can remain connected to your existing router. There's also a software package, which is instantly downloadable to your device and you can get using straight away. Again, libertyshield.com, EPL25 for 25% off at checkout. We're also brought to you by Home of Hopcroft, a giftware and homeware company located in Scotland but shipping worldwide. Check out homeofhopcroft.co.uk and do check out the EPL Index and Anfield Index shops, which you'll find on Etsy. Use the codes EPL10 or RED10 for 10% off at checkout. And lastly, do remember to check out A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. That podcast is on this feed before every Premier League match week. And then the EPL Roundtable, hosted by Kevin DeVries, on its own EPL Roundtable feed. So just search EPL Roundtable in your podcast device. And that's out after every match week. Now, on with the show. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Friday. It is the 2nd of February. Hope you're all well and hope you're all enjoying some decent weather wherever it is that you are. We had 2 games in the Premier League last night. West Ham won. Bournemouth won. Kurt Zouma plays Calvin Phillips into trouble. Phillips kind of panics. Solanke nips in. Solanke scores. Initially not given, ruled an offside, but on review, the ball came off Phillips and diverted itself to Solanke. And it was a perfectly good goal. 61 minutes, Mohamed Kudus is brought down in the box by Lloyd Kelly. Up steps Ward-Prowse. Ward-Prowse scores 1-1. Bournemouth missed a couple of really good chances in the first half. Semenyo had 2 good chances. And really and truly, they should have been out of sight before West Ham woke up in that game. But Bournemouth will be happy with that point. That's a good point away from home against a top 6 team. And it moves Bournemouth to 26 points. They're now 5 points behind Chelsea, 3 points behind Wolves. They do have a game in hand. That game, obviously, as I said, a dozen or so times, is against Luton at home. So we'll wait and see how that one pans out. But Bournemouth are going to be very, very happy with how the season has gone, especially given the bad start they had. this was a good result. Having lost the last two, this is a good result. For West Ham, it's three draws in a row, but unbeaten in their last 5. They did well to manoeuvre their way through AFCON. They've done well to manoeuvre their way through the absence of Paqueta, who's still injured. I think they can be very, very happy with where they sit. They are 7 points off Villa. They are looking over their shoulder at Manchester United, at Newcastle, probably at Brighton and Chelsea as well. But they're in a strong position to claim a European spot for next year, and that's really all they'll have wanted. Wolves 3, Manchester United 4. Manchester United's best half of the season, maybe, or one of them, in the first half, saw them go 2-0 up. First goal is well worked through the low into Højbjerg. He lays it off. Holmand. Højlund. Mixing up 3 different Danish players. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Holmand, who's the defensive midfielder at Sporting, and Rasmus Højlund, who's the striker at Manchester United. He lays it off for Rashford, and it's a really nice finish that gives the goalkeeper no chance. The second one is, again, a well-worked move. They build from the right across to Rashford. Rashford finds Shaw on the overlap. Shaw hits a low cross that takes a couple of deflections, the last one of which is off Rasmus Højlund, who's lying on the floor and has no idea that the ball's hit him until it's into the back of the net. But he gets the goal, and fair play. 71 minutes, Wolves score. Pablo Sarabia from the penalty spot after Pedro Neto was fouled by Casemiro. 2-1, Wolves are back in the game. Wolves have been better in the second half than they were in the first half. But 4 minutes later, Scott McTominay scores from a set piece. Corner comes in. It kind of hits him in the head, more so than he heads it, and it bounces down and up and goes in. Once again, proving that he might just be United's best attacking weapon. 85 minutes, Max Kilman pulls one back for Wolves after United failed to clear their lines from a set piece. And that sets up a good finish. Can Wolves nab a point? Well, it looks like they can, because Pedro Neto gets the ball on the 95th minute, cuts inside onto his left foot, and wraps the ball back into the corner. Really, really nice finish. Really well taken goal. Looks like Wolves are going to get something from this game, and United have thrown away another lead. Except Kobe Manu didn't read the script for that, and he scored an absolutely brilliant solo goal on 97 minutes. It's an absolutely outstanding goal. Picks the ball up, turns, beats a couple of players, and then uses the last defender to just guide the ball in around the back post. It's a great goal. It's a great goal. Credit to him. He does look a hell of a talent. He really does look a hell of a talent. United get 3 points. That puts them in, or keeps them in 7th in the league. But there's no way they can be happy with how that game played out and the fact that it ended up needing that late goal to give them the win. They had their best 11 on the pitch last night, starting that game. And like I said, at times they did look good. At times they did not look good. And they are the second team of all the Premier League teams to concede 50 goals in all competitions now, which is very, very concerning if you're a Manchester United fan. To concede 50 goals at this point in the year really is not good. 32 conceded in the league, 2 conceded in the FA Cup, 3 conceded in the EFL Cup, and 15 conceded in the league, or in the Champions League. So 52 goals conceded this season. 50 of which have been conceded, if I'm not mistaken, by Andre Onana. 50 goals conceded by him. Bayinder's only played 1 game. Tom Heaton hasn't played. Dean Henderson didn't play before he left. Vitek hasn't played. Onana has played 31 games and conceded 50 goals. That is abysmal. That is genuinely abysmal. "32 games played, 52 goals conceded." That is shocking. Absolutely shocking. Considering the money spent, Onana cost 50 million. Varane was 40. Martinez was 55. Delot, when they bought him, I think was like 12. Shaw, when they bought him, was 34 million. That's 10 years ago, though. That's the equivalent of paying about 70 million now. Casemiro cost 60 odd million to be the defensive midfielder. And they're still conceding goals at that rate. That's very, very poor. Very, very poor. But that front four did look good at times last night. Garnacho right, Fernandes is the 10, Rashford left, Højlund up front. That did look good. Menu looks good. Now, he's very young and he shouldn't be starting. But he does look like a very promising player for the future. When I say he shouldn't be starting, I mean United should not have to start him because of the other players that they've spent a lot of money on. I know Mason Mount is injured at the moment, but Christian Eriksen's there on big wages, you know? They've spent a lot of money in the midfield over the years, including Paul Pogba, of course. For them to be where they are after all that money spent is not a good sign. Not a good sign at all. But that's where we are. That's where we stand with the Premier League. And obviously we've got a full round of games. Wolves are 11th, I should point out. We've got a full round of games this weekend that we'll get into with Guy after the break. Today we've had one game in the Asian Cup thus far, and Jordan beat Tajikistan 1-0. Kanonov with an own goal on 66 minutes was all it took, and Jordan go through. Australia versus South Korea is kicking off in about 15 minutes. So that's one to look forward to. By the time you hear this, that game will almost certainly be over. And then tomorrow, Iran versus Japan in the early kickoff, Qatar versus Uzbekistan in the 3:30, which I don't think many people will be watching because there will be obviously Premier League games on at that time. There is AFCON today as well. You get Nigeria and Angola in a 5 p.m. kickoff, and Democratic Republic of Congo versus Guinea in an 8 p.m. kickoff. So all very good there. We're going to take an early break, come back, going to run through the transfer window, who did what, who didn't do anything. We'll take another break after that, and then it'll be Guy, and we'll go through the 10 Premier League games for this weekend. So see you after this. Right, welcome back. So let's go through A to W what the Premier League teams did in this window. Arsenal didn't sign anybody. They had a bunch of players leave, and they sold a couple of young players, while releasing runner Alex Runnerson and ending one of the more bizarre Premier League careers that there's ever been. Aston Villa signed Costa Nedeljkovic from Red Star Belgrade. I believe he'll arrive in the summer. And Joe Gauci from Adelaide United, a young goalkeeper that, by all accounts, is quite good. Don't know much about him now, to be totally honest. The young Serbian kid, Nedeljkovic, he's a right back. And yeah, it looks like he will arrive in the summer. They also signed Morgan Rogers from Middlesbrough. Can play up front, can play wide, versatile attacking player. Was very, very highly rated when he first came through at West Brom. Went to Man City, it didn't really work out. He had some loans, they didn't go great, but he seemed to find himself up at Borough, and now he's moved on. I still don't fully understand why Villa sold Cameron Archer in the summer to now buy Morgan Rogers. I think I'd rather have Cameron Archer. And then they signed Lino Sousa, who is a Portuguese-born English youth international. He's a left back, very promising by all accounts, and he's going to spend the rest of the season on loan with Plymouth. where Villa can keep an eye on him. They sold Finn Azaz, they released Bertrand Traore, they loaned out Leander Dendoncker, and they loaned a bunch of other young players. Bournemouth signed Callan McKenna from Queen's Park in Scotland, the club where Andy Robertson sort of began his career. He is a young goalkeeper, 17. And they signed Enos Unal, who is a very talented striker, but very inconsistent. He came through the City Academy after he was at Bursaspor. City nicked him when he was like 17 or 18 and had him for a couple of years. He had 3 different loans there. He went to Twente on loan and was brilliant for them. And that earned him a move to Villarreal, but the Villarreal move didn't work out. He had a couple of loans from there. He joined Getafe a few years ago. And to his credit, he had a couple of good seasons there where he really did impress. Now, this current season, he has not done a whole lot. I think he's had some injuries, but he is moving to Bournemouth. He's still young, only 26, so they're getting his prime years. And as a backup to Solanke, someone that could play with Solanke, and then if Solanke goes, they have someone that might be ready-made to step in, does a lot of the same things as Solanke, so it makes sense. They loaned out a bunch of players as well, notably Hamid Traore going to Napoli, Joe Rothwell going to Southampton, Kiefer Moore going to Ipswich, Emi Marcondes going to Hibernian, and David Brooks joining Joe Rothwell at Southampton. Brentford signed Yunus Emre Konak from Sivasspor. He is a defensive midfielder, 18 years of age. They signed Sergio Reguilon, who obviously gives them a new option at left wing back. They signed Hakan Raffin Valdemarsson, the young Icelandic goalkeeper, who's very highly regarded, and we'll see how he does. And then they signed Ben Krauhaus from Bromley, who I imagine is for their B team for next year. He's going to be loaned out, I think, for the remainder of this season. He's an attack-minded player. Also loaned out Miles Perth-Harris, Charlie Good. Brighton signed Valentin Barco, left-back, left-sided midfielder. I think he might play the Solly March role off the right. For them, very creative player, very, very promising, big future. They signed Adrian Mesulu, who is the young Romanian, plays as a winger. He has gone on loan to Viatis Arnhem for the first half of the season. They signed Stephen Hall from Adelaide United, Caelan Vickers from Reading, Kamari Doyle from Southampton, and Josh Robertson from Sunderland, all young players. So we'll see how they do over the next few years. Yassine Yari, they recalled from his Coventry loan, which didn't work out. He's gone back out on loan to Blackburn. Mo Dahoud is gone on loan to Stuttgart. Jeremy Sarmiento is gone on loan to Ipswich, and Jensen Weir was recalled from a loan and sent back out on loan. He has joined Port Vale. Burnley signed David Datro Fofana on loan. They signed Lorenz Asinon, who they have he's on loan with an option to buy. He is a right back, 23 years of age. Maxime Esteve signed from Montpellier. I think that's a loan with an option to buy as well, if I'm not mistaken. The option would be, I think, if they stay up, they'll buy him. He looked absolutely miserable in his pictures. That's about all I can really say. They needed a centre-back. I don't think he's the centre-back they needed. I think they needed someone older, a bit more experienced, but they get a centre-back, so it will help. Anna Saruri joined Hull on loan. Scott Twine joined Bristol on loan. Michael Obafemi went to Millwall, and Connor Roberts went to Leeds. Chelsea brought Cesare Caicedo back off his loan and Diego Moreira off his loan. And that's pretty much all they did. They loaned out a bunch of players, including Andre Santos, Ian Matson, David Datro Fofana, and Armando Broja. Crystal Palace signed Adam Wharton and Daniel Muniz. Spent 30 million in total, got themselves a right back and a midfielder, filled some needs, loaned out some kids. Everton signed nobody. They loaned Mason Holgate to Sheffield United after his Southampton loan didn't really work out. They also loaned out some youth players. Fulham got Broja in right at the deadline. There was talk that they'd promised the manager a bunch of money to spend, and no money was forthcoming, but maybe in the summer. Young Luke Harris has gone on loan to Exeter, and a few other young players gone out on loan. Liverpool didn't sign anybody, but they sent a bunch of young players out on loan. Luton signed Tom Holmes from Reading. He's going to stay there for the rest of the season. They signed Taylor Harris, also from Reading. He'd stay there, I think, to the end of the season. And Daiki Hashioka from St. Truden, wing-back, Japanese player who they think is going to fit in well into how they play. A couple of young loans as well there. Manchester City, they signed Claudio Echeverri, the young attacking midfielder from River Plate. He was very, very highly regarded. They also signed Alex Alcala, born in Stockton, home of Nick and Nate Diaz, Mexican underage international. Very, very highly regarded. Be interested to see where he ends on loan, because he's almost certainly going to go on loan to one of their other clubs. And they loaned out Calvin Phillips, Zach Steffen, Josh Wilson Esbrand. Manchester United brought Alvaro Fernandez back from his Granada loan and loaned out a whole bunch of players, including Jadon Sancho, Hannibal Mejbri, Alvaro Fernandez gone on another loan, Dan Gore gone on loan, Facundo Palestri gone on loan, and Isaac Hansen Aron, who's gone to Werder Bremen. He's actually Norwegian. I said he was Swedish, or I think I said he was Danish yesterday. He is Norwegian. Newcastle signed Alfie Harrison from Man City, young player. See how he does there. Loaned out a bunch of young players, and Isaac Hayden as well. Forest got Gio Reyna in, they got Matt Sells in, and they got Rodrigo Ribeiro in. They loaned out a number of players. They also got a couple of permanent outgoings, including Gustavo Scarpa, who heads back to Brazil. Aurel Mangala's gone on a loan with an obligation to buy. Emmanuel Dennis is gone to Watford. He had been somewhere else on loan, but he's gone back to Watford. Scott McKenna joined Copenhagen on loan. One that was meant to happen and then fell through was Serge Aurier, who was meant to go to Galatasaray, and that fell through at the last minute. Sheffield United got Ben Brereton Diaz, Mason Holgate, Ivo Gerbic, and Sam Curtis. So they had a pretty decent window. Loaned out a bunch of kids and terminated the loan of Luke Thomas from Leicester, a loan that didn't work for anybody, unfortunately. Spurs had a busy window, signing Timo Werner, Radu Dragusin, and loaning out a whole bunch of players, notably Eric Dyer, Sergio Reguilon, Ashley Phillips gone on loan to Plymouth. They finally said goodbye to Hugo Lloris, and Jaffa Tanganga and Ivan Zerbic also went on loan. West Ham brought in Calvin Phillips on loan, loaned out Tilo Carrere, loaned out Connor Coventry, and loaned out some kids. Wolves brought in Noah Lamina, younger brother of Mario Lamina, and they loaned out Sasa Kaladzic, Fabio Silva, Yerson Mosquera, and a bunch of kids. So nobody did a whole lot. You've got no money spent by Arsenal. Aston Villa spent about 20 million in total on 4 players. Bournemouth spent, I think, 16 million. I think it's a loan with an option or an obligation to buy for 16 million for Unal, so they didn't spend a whole lot. Brentford spent less than 10 million. Brighton spent about 15 million. Burnley didn't spend anything, but they did commit, I believe, 30 million to potential summer deals. Chelsea didn't spend anything. Crystal Palace spent just over 30 million. Everton didn't spend anything. Fulham spent, I think, 750 grand plus potential add-ons for the Broja loan. Liverpool didn't spend anything. Luton spent less than 10 million. City spent 15 on the 2 young players they brought in. United didn't spend anything. Newcastle spent less than 2 million. Forest spent, I think, 8 million inclusive of loan fees. Sheffield United spent less than 5, including loan fees. Tottenham spent in and around 30 million, including loan fees. West Ham, just a loan fee for Phillips. I think Noel Lamina, the buy option's 2 million on him for Wolves, and that's it. So you've got you've got Palace and you've got Spurs as your big spenders in this window. And they spent around 30 million each. Loan fee for Timo Werner and Radu Dragusin. That's what Spurs did. Loan fee for Timo Werner and Radu Dragusin. And they got Adam Wharton and Daniel Manus. Very, very quiet January transfer window. There's a couple of reasons for this. Number one, there isn't a whole mess of teams at risk of relegation. There's only 5, 3 of whom are newly promoted and probably being cautious with what they spend, because 2 of them, it looks a near impossible task to get out of right now, that being Sheffield United and Burnley. The other is Luton, who've had a very clear plan in place since before promotion, not to overspend. And then the other 2 who are in that mix, they're facing point deductions for breaching FFP already. So they can't really afford to spend anything. Forest, I've mixed them up twice now. Forest made a profit on the window, which, I mean, compared to the previous windows they've had, it's a madness. Just players coming and going all the time at that club. But this window was mostly players leaving. So you have that. You don't have a lot of managers whose jobs are under threat. 2 of those who probably are. One is Roy. Forest has spent money. Oh, that's 3 times now. Palace have spent money. Palace have spent money for Roy this window. Now, one of them is a young player that he may not play a whole lot because Roy doesn't like to play young players. But the other then is Burnley. And they're in a position where I don't know that those owners are going to be willing to spend any more money. Considering they spent a sizable amount in the summer, close to 100 million, maybe even a little bit more, I don't think they were going to be willing to spend a whole lot more money, but they have committed money to the summer if they stay up. The likelihood is that they won't stay up. So that will just go away. But Kompany and Hodgson are the only 2 managers that you would look at the league right now and say they're under immediate threat. You could look at Pochettino, you could look at Ten Hag, but they're in different circumstances. One of them's at a club with an owner who doesn't know what he's doing and might just fire him because he thinks that's going to change things. And the other one is at Manchester United, who really can't afford another managerial change at this stage. Like, they need to just ride this out at least until the summer and then have a good think about what they want to do. Like, you're 400 and odd million into this manager. You get another one in, what's he going to want? He's going to want another big bowl of money. Is he going to spend it any better? Is he going to spend it to add to the players he inherits? Is he going to look to get rid of the players he inherits? So there wasn't a huge need for a lot of clubs to spend. I'm sure some would have liked to spend. But when you see Liverpool, Arsenal, United, Chelsea, and to an extent City spend nothing in the window, plus Newcastle spend nothing in the window, like, it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise. FFP, profit and sustainability, is finally being enforced. And every club, including those at the top, are going to have to be a little bit careful moving forward. And some of the big clubs, Newcastle, Chelsea, Arsenal, they have spent huge amounts of money over the last few years and maybe looking at fairly tight summers as well, where they can't afford to spend a lot of money. Right, we'll take another break. When we come back, we'll have Guy Drinkle. See you soon. Right, welcome back. So, I am joined as always on a Friday by Mr. Drinkle. How are you, sir?
Windy. In the weather sense, not the other sense.
Yeah, well, thankfully enough. Right, Guy, we have a full slate this weekend, beginning tomorrow morning tomorrow lunchtime, and ending Monday night. So let's get rattling through.
Yeah, so we start 12:30 on TNT with Everton hosting Spurs, Dave. Spurs obviously much needed win over Brentford the other day. Whereas Everton, I mean, I haven't got the form guide in front of me, and it might be a mix of cup competitions, etc. But it feels like since we bigged up their little run where it looked like they were going to be safe regardless, it's just dropping like a stone type deal.
Yeah, they had that run where they did impress, but if we look at the last 6 games as a form guide, they won. They lost 3 in a row and now back-to-back draws. They obviously went out of the cup as well. So not good times for Everton. Whereas Spurs, having had that wobble after they lost half their team through injury, they're third in the form guide over the last 6 games, 4 wins, a draw and a defeat. If they can tighten up at the back, I think Spurs are going to be in pretty good shape. Right now, obviously, Spurs are 4th in the table, having won during the week. Everton sit 18th. Which, I mean, they got a draw away to Fulham. It's not a bad result at all. It's a positive result, and they still drop into the bottom 3. So that's going to be tough on them. This is a really difficult game because Spurs are a very, very good team. And they should win the game. But we know with Everton that when they turn up and they're in the mood, they're a match for most teams. They're not a pushover. Their league position is definitely false because they had the points deduction, but they are a team that can give others problems. Now, these sides played just before Christmas, and Spurs won that game 2-1, but Everton came really close to getting a draw. Having been demolished in the first half, Everton were really good in the second half and almost snatched a draw. Going into this one, you've got Everton with no Abdoulaye Doucouré. Idrissa Gana Gueye, though, is back after AFCON. Seamus Coleman is a doubt. Amadou Onana is a doubt. Arnaut Danjuma, who I spent most of January seemingly trying to get a loan, he's a doubt. Dele Alli is out and Andre Gomes is out. In terms of Spurs, we have no Alejo Velez, but he, I think, is gone on loan anyway.
Yeah, he went to Sevilla, I think.
Went to Sevilla. So you've got no him, no Ryan Sessegnon. Giovanni Lo Celso is a significant doubt. Pape Matar Sarr, they don't think will be ready in time, but there's a possibility he will. Heung-min Son is still away. Yves Bissouma is still away, and Manor Solomon is out. I'm not going to think about this too much. I'm just going to go with the better team. I'm going to pick Spurs to win 3-1.
Yep, I'd probably agree with you there. Brighton Palace, Dave. Weird it's not on TV again, but just doesn't seem to ever get the slots it deserves on TV. But a weird one, because Brighton, albeit not too bad in the table, should be doing better. I think most would agree, but it is still Brighton in the top half of the table, and they're surrounded by United and Chelsea off the top of my head. But I think you went through De Zerbi's record last week or this week at some point. Since September, it's not been great in the league. Whereas Palace, I mean, it all depends. It doesn't really matter. Obviously, Hodgson, etc., issues, but as long as Elise and Eze are fit, and they've added 2 much-needed signings with the lad from Blackburn and is it Munoz, the right back?
Right back, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a much-needed position. I'm not overly familiar with Wharton myself, but at least they've done something because it was a really stale season so far for Palace.
Yeah, it was feeling like a wasted year. And when you've got Eze and Elise, you really can't afford to be wasting the years because you're not going to have them for long. They're players that belong at top 4 teams. These sides played also in December and played at a 1-1 draw. Brighton with a late goal to get an equaliser in that one. In the form table, neither of them are shining. Palace are 12th over the last 6 games, 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats. Brighton are 15th, 1 win, 3 draws, 2 defeats. Brighton have had a lot of injuries, but the biggest issue is their defence. They've just been really, really poor at the back this year. This weekend, no Solly March, still no Enciso, no Veltman. Ansu Fati is back, but I doubt he will start. João Pedro has a knock that he's carrying. Matoma is away, Adingra is away, and James Milner is out. For Palace, no Doucouré, he's done for the season. Rob Holding is probably done for the season. Joel Ward is out, and Ebi Eze is a doubt, but hopefully gets past fit because you want to see players like him play. With this game being in Brighton, I'm going to lean towards a Brighton than they were against Luton, when it was an absolute embarrassment how easily they got played through.
What score did you go for there, Dave? You just broke up for a word.
Sorry, 2-1 to Brighton.
Perfect. Oh, God. Burnley Fulham. Does this one tickle your 3 o'clock fancy, Dave?
No, this doesn't tickle any fancy of any means. Burnley are 17th in the form table over the last 6 games. 1 win, 1 draw, 4 defeats. Fulham are 18th. 1 win, 1 draw, 4 defeats. Now, obviously, it's not possible for both of these teams to lose, but if it were, that would be the choice, because they have both been really poor. Now, Fulham's poor form has sort of been disguised by doing well in the Cups.
Yeah.
But, you look at the league table and they're sitting 13th. They're a point ahead of Palace, 3 points ahead of Brentford. And as a lot of people, including myself, have said, Brentford have had a really poor season because of injuries and the lack of Ivan Toney. But, Fulham, no Mitrovic is a big factor, losing him, not getting to replace him properly. I know they signed Raul Jimenez, but it's not the same thing, and he's not the same player as he used to be.
Did you cover the Broyer in part one?
Yeah, pretty much. They've had a tough season as well. To their credit, though, they're at no risk of relegation, I don't think. But they played Burnley in the game before Christmas at Craven Cottage, and Burnley won 2-0. So if Burnley can repeat the trick, and I'm going to back them to, I think, that could mean that Fulham start to get dragged backwards a bit. So for Burnley this weekend, no Redmond, no Koleosho, no Charlie Taylor, no Delqua, but Bayer should be okay. And for Fulham, no Jimenez, no Wilson, no Diop, likely no Adama Traore, no Calvin Bassey, no Fodo Ballatore, and no Alex Iwobi. I'm going to go for the Burnley win. I'll go repeat of the first game. I'll go 2-0 to Burnley.
Yeah, and you'd imagine the new signing's probably too late. Maybe Broya, because it's only literally, he won't have to have done any moving at all, but the lads Burnley sign, that'd be too soon, you imagine?
Yeah, surely too soon for them to come across and be involved. Now, they might make the bench, but I wouldn't imagine either of them are going to start.
Yep, I'd agree there. Next up then, we have Newcastle against Luton. Luton surprised of the midweek, just absolutely battering Brighton. But Newcastle finally getting some players back from injuries. Defensively, I think Botman and Shah almost getting, not back to the last season just yet, but they are settling in. And the attack, it's just a shame with the attack because 1 week they have Isak and then he gets injured mid-game. But they are starting to improve a bit, I feel.
Yeah, I think so as well. And they looked really good at Villa in the week. Luton are currently 6th in the form table over the last 7 games with 3 wins, a draw, and 2 defeats. The Toon are 13th, 2 wins, 4 defeats. But they looked really, really good against Villa, away from home as well, like on Villa's patch where Villa have been great. So that's a really good result, and not a lot of people will replicate. Arsenal went there and lost. City went there and lost. You go to Villa Park, you're getting a win, a comfortable win like that, you've done something right. Like you said, Newcastle are getting some players back and then they're losing others. So Tonali's obviously suspended for the year. Joelinton may not play again this year. Nick Pope's out for a few months. Matt Targett is out. Elliot Anderson is back. But Willock is working his way back, as is Harvey Barnes, as is Callum Wilson. Those 3 are hugely important. because no Isak in all likelihood this weekend. If Wilson can make the game, that at least gives them a presence up front. If neither of them make the game, that could be problematic. Barnes is going to be really important because they need another goal scorer in the team. And Willock gives them an energy and a drive from midfield that they don't have when Joelinton's not there. So the sooner they have them back, the better. For Luton, who obviously are riding high at the moment and going to come into this game really confident, no Nakamba, no Anderson, no Kabure, no Tom Lockyer, obviously. Ted Menji might be okay, but Jacob Brown isn't expected to be back. Newcastle are at home. I'm going to back the Toon to win at home because St. James's has been not a fortress. It's not quite strong enough to be a fortress this year, but it's been a place where they get results. So I'm going to back Newcastle to win this one 3-1. I think Anthony Gordon will cause that Luton backline problems because he's got pace and movement, and that's where they struggle a bit.
Mm-hmm. And you'd think Shah and Botman would be a lot better than Brighton at dealing with Adebayo, but I think he's done a lot better than most expected because Morris came in as the main man.
Oh, 100%. When they came up, Morris was very much the guy in that team, the one that you were sort of looking at as he's the one that's going to have to get them their goals because, I mean, Adebayo had sort of had an odd career. He'd come through at Fulham. He'd had a bunch of loans, none of which had really worked out. He'd gone to Slough, Bognor Regis, Cheltenham, Swindon, Stevenage, and hadn't really looked like he was going to make the grade in the professional ranks. Looked like he might have to drop into sort of a lower non-league and try and work his way back up. But he landed at Walsall, and he just clicked at Walsall, and he was really good in his second season there. But it was League Two. Like, it's not like it was a high level. It was League Two. And if Luton took a chance on him, he'd had that really good start at Walsall in that second season. Luton took a chance, brought him in. Initially, it looked like it might be a little bit hit and miss. He had a great first full season there with 16 goals in 40 league games. But last season, he dropped off to 7 in 42, which is not great in the championship level. So you were thinking, okay, he's going to be a squad player, you know, kind of last 15 minutes. He's big, he's quick, he's got a decent touch. You're bringing him on when you need to go long and try and rescue a game. But he's playing off the striker and he's just causing so many problems. Whereas, you know, Morris came up having had a really good year last year with 20 goals. You thought he'll be the main man. He's only got 4 this season. But what he is doing really well is he's occupying forward players. Mm-hmm. He's working really hard. His game is actually quite similar in a lot of ways. He's not as dynamic, but he's doing a lot of the Mikel Antonio type of dirty work and like bullying centre-backs. And that's enabling those behind him to get opportunities. So he is hugely contributing to what Luton are doing right now. It's just that Adebayo is the one getting the goals, and it's working for them. But I think they'll lose this weekend.
Yeah, definitely a tough game, but as you said, sixth in the form table, anything could happen. Like this game being on TV, Dave, Sheffield United against Villa. I mean, why is the first question, and 2, what do you make of this? Villa are a bit stinky at the minute.
Very much so. I really don't know why this one is on television. I actually can't think of any logical reason that this one is on television unless they're paying tribute to Cameron Archer, who's at the moment playing off the bench for Sheffield United. These sides met earlier in the season and drew 1-1, and that was the start of Villa's problems. They'd beaten Brentford. Kamara got sent off, if you remember, in the last seconds of that game. They played Sheffield United. They needed a 97th minute goal to get a draw. Then they went to Old Trafford. They went 2-0 up, and then they threw it away. Then they struggled to beat Burnley. Then they drew with Everton, and then they got fairly smacked about by Newcastle. It all started with that Sheffield United game. In the form table over the last 6 games, Villa are 11th. Now, we go back a few weeks, Villa were 3rd in the form table. But this run of games has really hit them hard. Sheffield United, no surprise, are bottom of the form table with no wins in their last 6. And of course, they've only taken 10 points from the 22 available. Villa are still 5th, and they're only outside the top 4 on goals scored. So it's not like they're in complete crisis mode. Injury-wise, we have Villa missing Emi Buendia, Tyrone Mings, John Duran. It's funny, there was all this talk that Chelsea were going to spend big money on John Duran. He was the one that they kind of identified. He was going to come in and get them the goals. He's out until April. Like, what was he going to do for them? Were they going to have him bother having a medical? Like,
well, get to know Fofana at least.
Well, that's it. Yeah, the two of them could become fast friends. No Digne, no Torres, and Bertrand Traore obviously released. Godspeed, Rip. Bertie T. Sheffield United, they've had injuries all season. No Basham, no Egan. Basham, I think, has now been ruled out for the season. Egan's probably the same. Baldock is out. Ryan Brewster is suspended after that comical challenge, which, in fairness, actually worked out well for them. Ivo Grbic is likely to miss out with a concussion. Max Lowe could be back. Tom Davies could be back. And unfortunately, Daniel Jebison still out, and hopefully that's going to rectify itself quite soon. The simple fact of it is Villa have to win this game. They have to win this game. They cannot afford to drop points here. So I'm going to go for Villa to win 2-0.
Yeah, I almost feel like they need a win and a good performance, because it has probably been those back-to-back games against the Arsenal and City since they've played well, off the top of my head, because I think they need to spark confidence in the fan base again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've done so well since Emery took over. And, you know, we saw what they accomplished last season under Emery, climbing from a relegation trending team into a team that were on track for top 4. This season, they've been, for most of the campaign, a top 4 caliber team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 weeks so far in the season they've spent in the top 5, which is very, very impressive. They haven't dropped out of that since they came into it, which was back in September when they hammered Brighton. So they've been in the mix. They've been as high as 2nd. So they need to make sure that they don't allow that negativity into the ground and then into the team, because that's when things will start to go bad. This is a group of players that don't have the experience of playing at this end of the table. Like, you look through their team, Emi Martinez, his club career was sort of sitting on the bench for Arsenal and then Villa. And all he's really known at Villa prior to Emery was failure. Matty Cash was a championship player who joined Villa. All he's known there is failure. Ezri Konsa, a failure is probably too harsh, but bottom half, relegation scraps, whatever. Mm-hmm. Same with Ezri Konsa. Now, Diego Carlos and Pau Torres have had success elsewhere, but not in England. Luca Digne in England has only played for Everton and Villa. So again, bottom half teams. The midfield, I mean, Boubacar Kamara's had success elsewhere, but, you know, not in England. Douglas Luiz, he's only known this. John McGinn rose up through the divisions with them. He's only known this. Jacob Ramsey came through the academy. He's only known this. Ollie Watkins was a lower league player. These lads haven't played at the top end of the Premier League before. None of them have ever played in a team that was going for the title. Even the ones that came from good clubs like Emi Martinez, Diego Carlos, Pau Torres, Moussa Diaby, Boubacar Kamara, they've never challenged for a title before. So this is all new for them. They've never even challenged for, you know, Diego Carlos might have challenged for top four with Sevilla, but that's about it. They've never been in this position. It's all new to them. And heads could go quite quickly if poor results continue. But I think they'll turn it around. I think there's some strong personalities in that group. I think there's some natural leaders in that group, like Boubacar Kamara, like Ezri Konsa, like John McGinn. I think they're strong personalities. And I think they'll be fine. Emery's a really good manager. I think he'll get this sorted out.
What score for this one?
2-0 to the Villa.
Can't believe you forgot Clement Longley as well. All his winning he did in Barcelona. Right, anyway, on to Sunday. First game up, Bournemouth hosting Nottingham Forest, Dave. Bournemouth, most importantly, kept all their players and have now got players back from AFCON. Forest had a Nottingham Forest enter January and have a rejig the midfield with Mangala going, probably most importantly. But they did bring some players in. Again, it just seems unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, losing Mangala is just odd, but it's clearly to try and help their FFP. No Divock Origi. Nuno Tavares is back, but no Sangaré, no Aina, no Niakhaté, no Kouyate, no Willy Bolly, and no Serge Aurier. For one reason or another, a lot of them is AFCON, obviously. I don't know what to make of their transfer window. To be honest, it was just strange. I like the signing of Reina. I think that's a gamble worth taking, but losing Mangala to me just seems harsh. Like to get rid of a nailed-on starter. Now, when Sangaré comes back, if they go Dominguez, Sangaré, Danilo as a 3, I do think that's their best midfield. But Sangaré is not available just yet. So maybe they use Danilo as the 6, which is where he played when he was playing for Palmeiras. And he is excellent there. Now, the physicality in the Premier League is a bit different, but he reads the game really well. For Bournemouth, no James Hill, no Tyler Adams, no Ouattara, no Ryan Fredericks, no Max Aarons, and no Darren Randolph, who I don't know what's gone on there. Bournemouth, their form has dipped, obviously, because they had the back-to-back defeats to Liverpool and City, and then obviously lost, or then drew at West Ham. But they're still 9th in the form table, 3 wins, 1 draw, 2 defeats. Forest are 14th, 2 wins, 4 defeats. They played a few weeks ago, and if I'm not mistaken, Bournemouth won that game. Yeah, Bournemouth won that game 3-2 at the City Ground. Dom Solanke hat-trick. This one's in Bournemouth. I'm going to go for the Bournemouth win. We'll go 3-1. 3-1 to Bournemouth.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Kind of an interesting game up next. Chelsea hosting Wolves, Dave. Chelsea were abysmal in the middle of the week, and Wolves just had a madness with Man United after an awful first half. But I think we discussed it on the post-match. I mean, if Chelsea bin all the lads who started and bring on some of the lads who came off the bench, I mean, it'd be tough to fit Nkunku, Chukwuemeka, and, well, Gusto and fit in all right, a right back, obviously. But it's a difficult mix there, and there's such a weird club to discuss.
They are. They're so strange. Like, that was a disgraceful performance, and they can cry all they want about not getting a decision or two. They got absolutely battered, and really and truly, it might have been the best possible thing for that fan base if they had lost 8-1, because it might have actually humbled them properly. They're still living in this deluded world that they might actually sneak into the top 4. You're not very good at the moment, lads, and that's just how it is. These sides played on Christmas Eve, and Wolves won 2-1. That was without Pedro Neto, a late Matt Doherty goal, and then Nkunku scored late on to make it look like Chelsea actually had a bit of a go in that game. But Chelsea were terrible in that game too. In the form table, Chelsea are 5th They've won 4 of the last 6 and lost 2, but they've had a very easy run. Wolves are 8th. 3 wins, a draw, and 2 defeats, including that defeat to United, where they were just terrible in the first half. Absolutely terrible in the first half. So if they'd played like they did in the second half, early doors, they probably would have blown United away. They also were denied, excuse me, they were denied a Stonewall penalty. In the same situation, they were denied a Stonewall penalty in the first meeting with United this season, which, you know, I mean, I know we ask for consistency, lads, but not consistently bad decisions, PGMOL. Injury-wise, Wolves have no Hwang and no Boubacar Traore because they're still off at the international competitions. And Chelsea are missing half the world because they've got so many players. Wes Fofana, Reece James, Marco Correa, Romeo Lavia, Robert Sanchez all out. Chalobah, a doubt, but the manager's shown no interest in playing him anyway. Levi Colwill, probably still out. Nicholas Jackson is back from AFCON. And Ugochukwu is out. Chelsea are at home. Wolves haven't travelled all that well this season. Only 3 wins on the road from 11 games.
Do you suit counter-attacking football, though?
They do. They do. With Neto and Cunha, if you allow them to sit in and invite you on, they can cut you apart. And Chelsea are slow at the back. Like, just Silva alone makes them really slow at the back. They're slow-footed in midfield as well. I still fancy Chelsea to win. I'll go 2-1 to Chelsea.
Yeah, it's a tough one to predict, isn't it? But considering if Wolves win, they go above Chelsea, and that'd put Chelsea in the bottom half of the table. You got to start asking questions. I know Poch is in a poison chalice type situation, but that number of talent there, you can't be set bottom half of the table. You can be underperforming because there's a million players to manage, but you can't be below Wolves. And if Bournemouth win their game, as it was predicted, they'd be 2 points behind, who were in a relegation scrap a couple of months ago. It's unacceptable.
Like, United have been garbage this season. Newcastle have been really poor this season. And yet they're both still ahead of Chelsea. So you're right. I mean, you can underperform. You just can't be this bad. Like, you spent all that money and you've got 31 points from 22 games this year. Like, it's just incomprehensible how much of a failure this whole thing has been there. And it's not a simple thing of, oh, well, let's go buy Victor Osimhen and that's going to sort all our problems out. That's not going to make you better at the back. It's not going to make your midfield function. Yeah, it might make you more potent in the final third, but it's no use if you can't get the ball to him. Like, Cole Palmer played up front against Liverpool and spent most of his game playing as an advanced right back because he wasn't getting the ball. So he kept dropping, looking for the ball. We've seen Nicholas Jackson play up front. And the same thing, he's dropping into midfield in search of the ball because they can't get the ball forward. If they lose this and drop into the bottom half, like, you'd really have to start wondering how many days Poch has left in the job. Not weeks or months, but days. I would imagine there was a phone call after that performance at Anfield because I know Bowley and co don't know anything about football, but I'm sure they know an ass kicking when they see it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they watched that game and just thought, oh God.
Yeah.
Like, that's the level we're trying to get to. And we're miles away. As I said to you and Carl on the post-match, or it might have been on Raw yesterday, or on Scouted yesterday, I can't remember. If you said to somebody who knew football but didn't know anything about English football, that one of those teams was a Premier League team and the other was a League One team, like a third division team, they would have agreed. And they would have said, oh, that makes sense now. Now I understand why there's such a big gap. That's what it looked like. It looked like an FA Cup game between a Premier League side and a lower-end League One side. Like, they look like they wouldn't win the Scottish League at the moment.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing. It's a weird thing, and there's always the possibility of a third Jose Mourinho spell. That's all I'm going to say. It's definitely on the cards.
I've actually seen people float that idea, and it might not be the worst idea in the world because at least he'll just simplify things, and
Mm,
at least he'll put players in positions they can actually play. We won't be seeing Axel Disasi at right back, followed
mm.
by Benoit Badiashile at left back. We won't see that under Mourinho.
Do it after the cup final,
Although you
lads.
never know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Keep Potter until the cup final,
Please.
please.
Yeah. Where are we up to? Man United, West Ham, Dave. Man
Just
United.
just on Chelsea.
Yeah.
Just on Chelsea. What do you reckon the odds are of Lampard getting another goal?
Oh God.
Next, I wonder, can we get odds on this? Next Chelsea manager odds. Right. Gambling.com. What have you got for me? Frank isn't even listed. So there's 9 names here. Michel Sanchez is number 1. He's currently the manager of Girona. Then Jose. Then Xavi. And it would not surprise me at all if that's where they go in the summer and try and get Xavi because he's leaving Barca.
Mm.
Then De Zerbi. I don't think he'd take it because I think he's clever and I think he'd have looked at Graham Potter and thought, no, you're all right, thanks, I'm not doing that. Then Alonso, there's no chance he'd take that job. Then Thomas Frank, again, there's no chance. Like, they're in West London. He will know the chaos that's gone on at Chelsea. He's not taking it. Then Zidane, he's not going to touch it. Then Ruben Amorim, I'd be shocked if he took it. I'd genuinely be shocked. And then number 9 on the list, Rob Edwards of Luton.
Honestly,
I just don't see it.
I think he'd actually
Michel
be better than
Sanchez
Poch.
or Xavi Hernandez. That's who I think they go for. Or that's who I think they get. Michel might be on a promise of the City job post Pep, though. So just keep an eye on that one.
Mm.
I think they'll make an effort to get Xavi Hernandez because I think they'll, again, go name recognition rather than... And he's not a bad manager. Like, he's not. He won a league title last season with Barcelona. He's not a bad manager. But I don't think he's the type of manager that's needed for that job. What they honestly need is they need Antonio Conte. If I was them, I'd be going cap in hand back to Antonio Conte and saying, look, just come in and do your thing. Come in and fix us, please. You'll have money. There's a big squad there. We'll sell whoever you want. We'll bring in whoever you want. There's a good team there waiting for somebody. I think Conte might be that somebody.
There's a lot of young players he will instantly not like.
There is, but at the same time, like, if you think about Conte's Juve team, right, which is still sort of the archetype Conte team,
Mm-hmm.
back 3. So Disasi, Colwell, Badiashile. That might work as a back 3. You've got Petrovic, looks a decent keeper, so we go with him for now. Enzo in the Pirlo role, sitting behind the midfield 4, just knocking the ball here, there, and everywhere, running the game. He used Cesc in a similar way at times at Chelsea. In front of him, you go Reece James for the 8 games, he'll be fit on the right. I think Ian Maatson becomes perfect on the left, but you've also got Chilwell. Caicedo and Ugochukwu or
Carney?
Lavia or Carney Chukwuemeka or Conor Gallagher or Andre Santos. Any 2 of that group of whatever I've named there, 6 players, including Caicedo, any 2 of that group, I think you could probably form a decent midfield pairing of, if you want to just go explosive, dynamic box-to-box players, you go Andre Santos and you go Carney Chukwuemeka and you play Enzo behind them and you maybe have to say goodbye to Caicedo, but at least then it takes care of some of the headache you've got. And then up front, you go Nkunku and maybe Jackson for now, and you just try and grind teams down and you try and overpower teams and just kind of control games, spoil games. You have enough individual talent there to create chances. In Nkunku, you've got a player that can score goals. If Jackson can be, like a foil for him, like a Diego Costa to Antoine Griezmann type, that might work.
And they could bring Lukaku back for him.
Oh God! Oh dear! I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put it past him.
He's literally his dad.
It's so funny that Lukaku was at Everton. Chelsea wanted him. He went to United because Chelsea wouldn't pay the money. And then he went to Inter to play under Conte. And then Chelsea decided, actually, we'll buy him now. And spent more than they would have had the first time. That midfield that team would be too young for Conte, I imagine.
Mm.
But I do think that kind of team would work. I think there's an 11 at Chelsea that works if they get everybody fit, because there's just too much talent there for it not to work in one shape or another. It might take Fofana coming back and you go Fofana, Colwill and Badiashile, or Disasi, Fofana and Badiashile, or Chalobah, Fofana and Colwill, or whatever way you make it work. But I do think there's a back three there that works. James and Maatsen as wing backs, I think works. I think there's enough talent in midfield that you can find a group that works. And then Nkunku and whoever up front can make it work. But look, it is what it is. Where are we going next? You said something about Man United?
Yeah, well, just before that, harbor a guess where Pochettino is, in terms of number of this list, in terms of next manager to leave odds.
He won't be first. I'm going to get fourth.
Not lower.
Lower?
Yeah.
Sixth.
One out.
Seventh?
Yeah. You want to harbor a guess? So Roy Hodgson's first.
Okay, so Roy Hodgson, Vincent Kompany.
Yeah, two out of two.
Ten Hag.
3.
Dyche.
Nope.
Thomas Frank.
Nope.
Chris Wilder.
Nope.
Oh. It's not going to be Klopp.
No, God, no. I'm guessing they're suspended. No, they got odds on Klopp. Weird.
I might throw a bit on. I might throw a little bet in.
It's 25 to 1, Dave. So it's good money.
Is that next manager to leave?
Yeah.
So in theory, you could throw money on Klopp, and if nobody gets sacked by the end of the season, you'd win because he's leaving at the end of the season.
Well, so Klopp's 33 to 1, so yeah. Potts is 25 to 1.
Someone's going to make a ball of money off that.
Yeah.
So I got 3 of the 6 ahead of him.
Yeah.
Ten Hag, Kompany, and
Hodgson.
And you get Hodgson. It's not Thomas Frank. It's not Sean Dyche. It's not Chris Wilder. Marco Silva?
Yeah, that's one.
De Zerbi.
Yeah, that's another.
Yeah, because there's been some buzz about him maybe not being too happy with the powers that be at Brighton over the last little while. Right, do I go Nuno or do I go Moyes?
They'd both be wrong.
Oh, they'd both be wrong.
You're missing one of the teams we're about to talk about, and it wasn't Moyes.
Ten Hag. I said Ten Hag. No,
Oh, did you say Ten Hag? Oh, sorry, no,
I
I've
said
misread.
Ten.
So no, yeah, another manager. Slight pressure, maybe more in the summer.
It's not Arteta.
No, more money, but less to spend.
Oh, Eddie Howe, of course. Eddie Howe. Of course. I don't know why I didn't think of him straight away. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Poch being seventh is ridiculous.
Same odds
There's
as
just
Frank
no
and Nuno.
There's just no way that he's safer in his job. Like, De Zerbi would need to quit. Brighton aren't firing him. That's really strange. And he's the same age as Frank, the same price as Thomas Frank. That's ridiculous. Like, Thomas Frank is much safer in his job. Thomas Frank's only leaving if he chooses to leave. He's not getting fired. No way is he getting fired.
Sean Dyche and Klopp, the same odds. That's what we like to see. Merseyside United. Anyway, we said no tangents today and we failed, so we'll move on to the next game. Man United hosting West Ham, Dave. Battle of the Europa League teams, because you can't see either pushing onto the Champions League 5 battling out for it, really.
Yeah, neither of these teams have any chance of finishing in the top 4. Absolutely no way. United have been dreadful this season, and they lost 2-0 when they played West Ham just before Christmas. They scraped by Wolves, obviously, the other night. They've got Martial out, Malacia out, but Amrabat is back. Lisandro Martinez is back, obviously. Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, and Mount probably still out for this one, but working their way along towards recovery. In the form table, United are 10th. 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats. Negative goal differential, of course. And West Ham are 4th in the form table. 3 wins and 3 draws. So things very much looking up for West Ham. They are without Mikel Antonio and without Paqueta. Said Benrahma is suspended. Naif Agard should be back from AFCON. Vladimir Sufal, I believe, is back from suspension. They sold Pablo Fornals yesterday. I think he was the last remaining ember of the Pellegrini era in that team. Mikel Antonio probably would be as well, but he wasn't a Pellegrini signing. I'm going to go for United. Don't really do draws, do they? 2 draws this season. West Ham love a draw. I'm going to go the United win. I'm just going to go safe. United are at home. I'll go 2-1 with a Spony goal. Yeah, United to win 2-1.
Scott McTominay scoring, got you.
100%. 100% that's who's scoring.
Yeah. Big one of the weekend then. Arsenal hosting Liverpool, Dave. You've obviously done a full in-depth preview over on AI if people want a more in-depth one. But your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so in the last 10 games, Liverpool are top of the form table and Arsenal are 4th. In the last 6 games, Liverpool are 2nd in the form table and Arsenal are 6th. 3 wins, a draw, and 2 defeats. They have not looked good in a while. Their last 3 wins, not very impressive in terms of who they've beaten. They beat a Brighton team that are very wobbly. They did dominate them, but after going ahead, they could very easily have gotten pegged back. Pascal Gross missed a sitter. Then they went to Anfield and were obviously they'd lost to Villa the week before that. They went to Anfield and were very, very fortunate to get out of there with a 1-1 draw. They lost at home to West Ham. They lost away to Fulham. They did hammer Crystal Palace, but they didn't look great. 2 set-piece goals and 3 counter-attacking goals when Palace were piling onto them. Then they beat Forest at the weekend. They played a bit better, but they struggled again to break down Forest. They've not been good going forward this year. They've only scored 18 goals from open play, taking away counterattacks. They're without Jurriën Timber. They're without Thomas Partey. They're without Takahiro Tamiyasu. It's very unlikely that Fabio Vieira plays and Mohamed Elneny never plays. Liverpool, on the other hand, no Matip, no Bajcetic. We have footage of Thiago Alcantara in training kicking footballs today, but I don't think he'll be ready for this one.
Like footage of Bigfoot.
No Salah. Yeah, it literally is. No Salah, no Tsimikas, but they're both really close. Alexis should be fine. Darwin Núñez should be fine. Wataru Endo is away at the Asian Cup. Liverpool did beat them in the FA Cup at the Emirates only a few weeks ago when Liverpool went there without Van Dijk, among others. So Liverpool will go into this one confident, knowing that a win opens an 8-point gap on Arsenal. And I'm going to back Liverpool to win. I'm going to say 3-1.
Yep, big game, massive game. Last game then, Monday, Brentford, Man City, bogey team. That's probably why it's on TV.
That's the entire reason it's on TV. Yeah, these sides haven't played this season. Their game was called off because City had to go to the World Club Cup.
Yeah.
In the form table over the last 6 games, City are top, 5 wins and a draw. Brentford are second from bottom, 1 win and 5 defeats. Ivan Toney is back. Ivan Toney has caused City lots of problems before, but Brentford are still missing a lot of players. No Rico Henry, no Brian Mbomo, no Aaron Hickey, no Kevin Schade, no Yohan Wissa, no Frank Onyeka, and no Saman Ghoddos. They do now have Sergio Reguilon, though, able to play, which is help. For City, Akanji is back. Everybody is fit. The horse placenta and all that good stuff is paying dividends. City will win this game, but it'll be tough. Brentford always make it tough on them. I'm going to go 2-1 to City.
And that's the last game.
And that is it. That is us for the week. Right, folks, we will be back on Tuesday. No podcast on Monday. It's bank holiday here. It's also my other half's birthday, and I'll be absolutely castrated if I attempt to work. So I will not be here on Monday. I will see you all Tuesday. Until then, take care. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Podcast Network.
Did you know at Kroger, shopping online with pickup and delivery is the same as shopping in store? Same low prices, same personalized deals, same rewards, with no hidden fees or markups on your same family favorites, like Honeycrisp apples and pasta sauce. The only difference is you don't have to put on shoes. Start your cart today at Kroger.com. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Restrictions apply. See site for details.